Other than Philadelphia, there is not a city on the planet that is having a better 24 hours than Compton. From Kendrick Lamar killing it at the Super Bowl halftime show to DeMar DeRozan dropping 42 and hitting a game winner in Dallas. The Sacramento Kings beat the Mavericks 129-128 in overtime, and you are listening to Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And just like this season has been a roller coaster ride for Sacramento Kings fans, so was that game between the Kings and the Mavericks in Dallas. The Kings on the right side of another clutch victory that's been pretty common in the Doug Christie era. 129-128. DeMar DeRozan, Debo, just phenomenal tonight for the Kings. Really, from start to finish, 42 points, which is his season high. 15 of 22 from the field, a super efficient scoring night for Debo. 4 of 6 from three-point range, 8 of 8 from the foul line, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. The man was cooking all night long. He had 21 points at halftime. And I was concerned watching this game go on, especially when the Dallas Mavericks went up by 12 points in the fourth quarter, thinking this game is like a nightmare game for the Sacramento Kings. And I was prepared to explain to you why you should be terrified by this loss if you're a Kings fan, because Debo's cooking, right? Zach LaVine got off to a really good start in this game. Your top 2 guys offensively, your top 2 scorers are both having good games, and you're tied at halftime. You had an 8-point lead. And you were in full control. Maybe it was a 9-point lead, 8 or 9-point lead in the first quarter. You were in full control. You gave it all back very, very quickly to the Dallas Mavericks, right? There was a lot from this game that was good, and yet the Sacramento Kings were still either barely winning, tied, or even falling behind. But DeMar DeRozan made sure that I was going to be nothing but positive. Well, there are some negatives that I will talk about, but for the most part, nothing but positive here on the Locked On Kings podcast. And I'll say this, and Debo mentioned it himself, so it's not like I'm dragging him through the mud here. Debo nearly tricked this game away, right? The Kings were up by 2. The shot clock is off. There's 18 seconds remaining. By the way, the Kings allowed Kyrie Irving to go cut the Kings lead from 4 points down to 2 with a layup that only took 3 or 4 seconds off the clock. I know you don't want to foul the guy there, and Kyrie is incredible at getting to the rim and finishing around the rim, but you got to make it at least a little more difficult, or at least make it take a little bit longer than that. But the Mavs are within 2. The Kings get the ball to DeMar DeRozan, their best free throw shooter. DeMar attacks the basket, goes for the shot. Now, he felt he was fouled. He may have been, but regardless, what are you doing shooting the basketball there? Hold on to it. Get fouled. Go to the foul line where you're so good to extend that lead. And then when Klay Thompson hit that 3, of course it was Klay Thompson, right? The Mavs get the stop. They inbound to Klay Thompson, and he hits a wide open 3 that takes only a handful of seconds off the clock. I thought, oh my God. 1, Klay did it to the Kings again. And 2, now I'm going to have to crap on DeMar DeRozan after the fantastic game that he had. But again, DeMar saved himself and saved us from that. The Kings do a good job getting the ball. Of course, the Dallas Mavericks know that he's going to be the guy to put it up, not just with the game that he's been having, but because he is the clutch closer for Sacramento. He faces the double team, pump fakes, splits the two defenders with the step-through move, and then knocks down the little like 12 or 13-foot floater to put the Kings up by 1 point. That is a veteran freaking move, right? How many guys are rushing that shot? How many guys are trying to shoot before the double team can get there, right? He shoots on the move. No, DeMar pump fakes, gets the defenders just enough, spreads them out just enough to where he can do that step-through move without lifting up his pivot foot, a completely clean, legal basketball move, and then he knocks down the shot to cap it all off, the cherry on top. Just a fantastic veteran Hall of Famer move that is just another gold star on the phenomenal resume of DeMar DeRozan and his NBA career. Moments like this are exactly why you went and got Debo. He carried the Kings in many ways to this win and then helped solidify it and secure it in the final moments. But as much as I love to make DeMar DeRozan the hero in this game, and as much as he deserves all the praise and all the credit in the world, we cannot allow what Malik Monk did in this game to flow under the radar, right? Or to not give him the credit that he deserves as well. Because Malik Monk was huge in this game. So many clutch moments from Malik. First off, with the game tied and the Mavs have a chance to score to win the game in regulation before it even goes to overtime, Malik Monk defending Kyrie Irving. Now, Keon Ellis had been on Kyrie a lot, and Keon, I thought, was doing a fantastic job guarding Kyrie. But this play was all Malik Monk. Malik stays in front of Kyrie, and when Kyrie goes for his shot at the rim, Malik Monk rejects it, knocks it out of bounds. There's only 0.2 seconds remaining on the game clock. Ultimately, the Mavs aren't able to get another shot up, so we go to overtime. A huge, clutch, defensive play from Malik Monk. Then you get into overtime. The man had 8 points in OT. He had a huge dunk to open the OT scoring for the Kings. He had that offensive rebound off of the missed free throw by Domantas Sabonis, dribbled the ball out, turned right back around, attacked the basket, finished with the layup. And then you may have missed this because you were too busy celebrating after DeMar hit what was the game winner. But there was still a couple of seconds left for the Mavericks. They were looking for like the half-court heave. And Malik Monk drew the charge to make sure that shot wouldn't have counted even if it did go in. Just an incredible finish to this game and some really, really clutch, important winning basketball moments from Malik Monk that are absolutely worth pointing out. Now, I do have to talk about the negative a little bit. And unfortunately, while this is not all Malik Monk's fault, he, as the point guard, is going to carry a lot of the responsibility for this. The turnovers for the Sacramento Kings were horrible in this game. 21 Kings turnovers that led to 36 Dallas Mavericks points. The only reason the Dallas Mavericks were in this game is because the Sacramento Kings could not take care of the basketball. They had 8 turnovers in the first quarter alone. Taking care of the basketball was a big problem for the Kings tonight, and it has been a big problem for the Sacramento Kings since De'Aaron Fox left. And I'm not going to sit here and make it about De'Aaron Fox and everything like that, because move on, Matt, right? But I bring up De'Aaron because Malik is the guy that takes over a lot of De'Aaron's responsibility, right? It's not a coincidence that the Sacramento Kings are struggling taking care of the basketball since their main point guard and primary ball handler has departed, is now gone. You don't have to be a Fox fan or Fox hater to understand the reality of that situation. And Malik Monk is the guy that bears a lot of the responsibility for that. Malik had 4 turnovers tonight. He would say that's way too many. Zach LaVine had 5. So, of course, a lot of these turnovers also come from this group not being too familiar with each other, right? Zach LaVine's 5 turnovers, a lot of them are some bad passes. He was trying to force some things into Domantas Sabonis. There's some things that are certainly on LaVine, and Malik doesn't take the responsibility for the mistakes that LaVine is making. But again, as the point guard, as the primary ball handler and facilitator, you have to be the guy that limits those turnovers as much as possible and takes control of the ball. And he and the Kings in general have not done a consistent, good enough job of doing that since De'Aaron Fox left. So he wears a lot of the responsibility for that. Again, it's not blaming Monk for it. It's not all Monk's fault by any means. But as the point guard, as the only point guard that this Kings team has, the spotlight is going to fall on him, and I think he would say and admit the same thing. Real quick, speaking of De'Aaron Fox, and again, I'm not doing this to talk about Fox and the Spurs in any kind of way. De'Aaron Fox had 18 free throws tonight in the San Antonio Spurs win. 18 free throws. According to John Bull, who's a fantastic follow on Kings Twitter, by the way, in the over 500 games that De'Aaron Fox played for the Sacramento Kings, he only had 18 free throws or more one time. I'm not saying this to talk about Fox. I'm saying this to talk about the Kings, right? Because tonight, like I said, Fox had 18 free throws. The Sacramento Kings as a team had 19. Something about putting on a Kings jersey, you struggle in some ways. Taking off the Kings jersey, you have success in other ways, right? This is why, and I know people get annoyed at Sacramento Kings fans for complaining about the officiating, and I know every fan base in their own right complains about the officiating. But God almighty, for the Sacramento Kings, it just seems like getting the whistles is something that does not consistently happen for this team. The Kings were getting clobbered in this game, attacking the basket. We're not getting free throws. Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks went to the line 24 times. It's important to note, the Kings had 19 total free throws in this game. A handful of them were there down the stretch when the Mavs had to play the foul game a little bit, and the Kings were trying to close out that win. So only one more free throw as a team tonight than De'Aaron Fox got playing for San Antonio. I guess it's good for Fox. He's not wearing a Kings jersey anymore. He'll get more recognition from the national media, and he'll get more respect from officials, I suppose. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, speaking of putting on a Kings jersey, Zach LaVine tonight, 1 of 6 from three-point range. There is not a Kings fan on this planet who's been following the Kings for a significant period of time that is at all surprised by the fact that Zach LaVine has fallen off the face of the earth as a three-point shooter since putting on a Sacramento Kings jersey. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. 44% shooting from three-point range. One of the best three-point shooters in the league. Zach LaVine comes to Sacramento and is 5 of 26, 19% from three. A lot of these really good open looks. Now, I'm hoping that that'll correct itself. If it doesn't through the remainder of this season, there needs to be like a study on what the heck is going on or what, like it's like the Monstars, right? You put on a Kings jersey, it just sucks the three-point shooting talent out of you. I don't understand what it is, but it's happened to so many players here in Sacramento. That being said, I thought Zach LaVine had a good game. 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. His aggressiveness to start this game was fantastic. He had a handful of dunks where his head was all the way above the rim. Had a couple of alley-oops, one from Domantas Sabonis, one from Malik Monk. A lot of really good plays and good moments and aggressiveness from Zach LaVine early on. But my man, we got to figure out that three-point shooting. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Skims. When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with finding the right underwear consistently that fits, is comfortable, or has that right style and is useful for multiple different situations. Skims changed all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone from boxer briefs to their classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I personally tried their the Stretch 5 boxer briefs, which is great for an active lifestyle, right? Whether you're moving around a lot like I do on game days or going to the gym, or for me like playing golf or playing basketball or anything like that. They're comfortable, they're perfect, they keep you cool, right? And you can use them for your more casual days and casual outings as well. You can go and get a pair of these boxer briefs or try a lot of different pairs of what Skims has to offer by going to shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select one of our shows from the drop-down menu. If you're looking for a perfect gift for Valentine's Day too, for yourself or for your loved one, Skims just launched their best Valentine's shop ever, available in sizes for men, women, kids, and even pets, believe it or not. So go and check it out, skims.com. Not only are a lot of Sacramento Kings happy with the performance of DeMar DeRozan and the Kings' overtime win in Dallas, a lot of us we got what we were curious to see tonight from the Sacramento Kings, which was the debut of the double big man Lithuania lineup. Domantas Sabonis and Jonas Valanciunas together on the floor, and they were huge for the Kings. Tonight, Sabonis 16 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. Jonas Valanciunas off the bench, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 6 of them offensive rebounds. The Kings were down by 12 in the fourth quarter, and Valanciunas and Sabonis were a huge part of that comeback. When Valanciunas checked into the game, the Kings were down 89-98. When Valanciunas fouled out of the game, so he checked out by force, the Kings were only down 2, 110-112. He helped them get back in it because the smaller lineup of the Dallas Mavericks was giving the Kings fits. When they're in the game, like, good luck rebounding, right? If that ball, unless it's a long rebound going over everybody's head, good freaking luck getting a rebound from both Jonas Valanciunas and Domantas Sabonis. They are not just really, really good at reading the ball off the rim and being in the right position. Even if they're battling for position, who's moving them out of the way, right? Two just absolute like bulls down low that are impossible to get rid of. And what I liked is that at least tonight, the Kings defensively weren't killed on the perimeter because Domantas Sabonis moved over to the 4. Valanciunas was holding down the 5. The Kings weren't killed on the perimeter by the Mavs. Now, I also think Doug Christie deserves a lot of credit, because we saw him debut this lineup against a team where it was a really good matchup to do so, right? Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, the 1 and 2, you, of course, defensively have to worry about what they're going to do, and they can score on all 3 levels, but especially from the perimeter, right? But with Anthony Davis out with another injury, I'm sorry, Mavs fans, like, the Kings weren't worried about Omax Prosper or other guys. Like, Spencer Dinwiddie was having a really good game, but again, not really from 3, more attacking downhill and getting into the paint. The Kings were willing to live with whoever was at the 4 getting a little more room on the perimeter, and ultimately it didn't cost them. So I don't know if this is going to be a lineup. The double Lithuanian big man lineup is something that we're going to be able to see consistently and have consistent success, especially against teams that have like a 3-4 hybrid player who spaces the floor and knock down threes. Like, I don't think that lineup would work very well against like a Keegan Murray Kings lineup, right? I don't think it would work. If there's a stretch 4 out there that's spacing the floor, I have my hesitations about whether or not Domas can hang out on the perimeter defensively and take care of those responsibilities. So I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but tonight it worked like a charm. And I hope we get to see it more and get to see it against different matchups to get more comfortable with it and continue to test it out a little bit. Speaking of Keegan Murray, I thought he had a fantastic third quarter. A lot of people were talking at halftime that Keegan had 0 points and 0 field goal attempts. Now, it didn't mean that he had a bad half, because, of course, he's primarily making his impact on the defensive side of the ball, and he had some good defensive moments in the first half. Of course, he's doing a much better job rebounding too, especially on the offensive glass. But not taking a single field goal in the first half, people were talking about it, and I felt like Keegan was playing in the flow of the game. Not that he was like vanishing, and there's a very fine line between going with the flow and just like vanishing and not being a part of it. That's something that, unfortunately, Harrison Barnes used to do a lot when he was here in Sacramento. I don't feel like that's what Keegan was doing, but the ball certainly wasn't finding him, and he really wasn't making an effort to have the ball find him. But that's okay, because Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan were cooking. The Kings were playing a lot through them. Like, Domantas Sabonis only had 6 shot attempts in that first half. So you need more than 0 field goal attempts from Keegan in the first half, but it's not like I didn't feel like he was just a vanishing actor, not involved in the game at all. But clearly, the same way we felt about Keegan being more aggressive, either Keegan felt that way or Doug Christie felt that way. Somebody challenged him, or he challenged himself, because Keegan Murray came out of the gate in the second half. The first bucket for the Kings was a Keegan Murray dunk. And in the second half, or the third quarter, Keegan Murray scored all 11 of his points on 5 of 9 shooting from the field. really, really solid, right? DeMar DeRozan cooled down and calmed down a little bit, as did Zach LaVine in that third quarter. So Keegan Murray stepped up. The ball was finding him, and he was aggressive, and he was scoring. I thought that was really encouraging from Keegan. Would you like more than 11 points from him? Sure. But on a game where Debo had 42, Malik Monk was cooking, Zach LaVine was cooking, and even Sabonis and Valanciunas both had double digits, you can live with an 11-point performance from Keegan, especially with what he does defensively. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback like the Kings did tonight, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Whether it's FanDuel's live betting feature that keeps every single moment in the game exciting, or backing our own team like the Sacramento Kings for a late game rally, or picking a player to hit a clutch bucket like DeMar DeRozan, I never really feel like I miss my chance on FanDuel. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers can bet $150, or rather, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just take that $5 and bet it on the easiest thing you can find. Put $5 against the Washington Wizards, right? You'll probably get that $150 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Before I want to say shame on a couple of people or organizations. First off, shame on the NBA again. Not only did you snub Domantas Sabonis once last year, and then he made All-NBA, snubbed him from the All-Star game, I mean. Not only did you snub Domantas Sabonis twice by doing the same exact thing this year, not giving him an All-Star appearance, when he has even better numbers this year than he did last year, but they did it a third time by naming Kyrie Irving the injury replacement for Anthony Davis in the West in the All-Star game. Now, look, from an entertainment standpoint, I get it. Kyrie's bigger name, bigger draw, flashy with his dribbling, flashy with his finishing around the rim. From a show and entertainment standpoint, I get it. So I'm not even that mad at it. But let's not pretend. Nobody in Dallas, in Sacramento, and anywhere in the world, let's not pretend like Kyrie Irving is having a better season than Domantas Sabonis. Because it's simply not true. You look at the numbers, Kyrie's got more scoring or averaging more points per game than Sabonis is, but everything else, Sabonis is dominating. The Kings have only one fewer win than the Mavericks this year, so it's not like Kyrie is getting in because of that reason, because he's won a boatload of games compared to Domantas Sabonis, and the Kings are actually 2-0 against the Mavericks so far this season, but I digress. No player in NBA history has ever averaged 20 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists or more, and not been named an All-Star until Domantas Sabonis. But honestly, it's fine. Might seem like I'm mad at it. And, you know, I'm mad that it's just a continuation of him not getting the recognition and respect he deserves. But in all actuality, oh darn, he gets to go home to his place in Napa and chill with his family and rest up for this race that we're going to have in the Western Conference over the final half of the season. Oh darn. I'm fine. I'm 100% fine with Domantas Sabonis not playing. And truth be told, there's a little devil on my shoulder that wishes the NBA said, Domas, you're in. And he just went, bam, here's the bird. I ain't playing. You didn't pick me then. I'm not playing for you now that your precious Anthony Davis hurt himself for the billionth time in his career. So, whatever. Domas can chill, rest up, and get ready for what's sure to be a crazy race in the West over the remainder of this season. So, shame on the NBA. But also shame on the Mavericks. Talking the Mavericks organization. Mavs fans, I'm on your side here. The Mavericks were kicking out fans who were chanting to fire Nico, their general manager, who of course traded Luka Doncic. Luka, who made his debut tonight for the Los Angeles Lakers, by the way. if they had signs that said fire Nico, they were kicked out. Like, that's ridiculous. I understand you don't want to draw attention to it. I understand the organization is embarrassed by it in a lot of ways. And I do understand, too, there's been some extreme situations where I guess fans have made death threats or threatened Nico and some kind of, like, that's not cool. That we don't have to go that far. But I'm not pretending that that's the entire Mavericks fan base. So to say that's a representation of the Mavericks fan base is not fair or accurate. But look, if you want to downplay it as much as possible, that's fine. Don't show the sign on the Jumbotron. Or if you want to confiscate the sign because it's on your property, okay, I get it. But kicking fans out for voicing their opinion as your paying customers, voicing their frustration towards you for making the, some would say, idiotic decision of trading Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, who got hurt in literally his first game, they have a right to do that. So shame on the Dallas Mavericks for kicking fans out for voicing that opinion. Now, if they go too far, if they cross a line, make threats, say awful things, okay, I get it. I also don't think Nico is showing his face at these games, because why the hell would he? But I thought, like, this is coming from someone who is a diehard A's fan, who went through all this crap with John Fisher and the A's in Oakland, and the, like, if people had signs that were anti-Fisher or anything like that, they tried to confiscate them, but there were so many by the end, I think they just gave up. Even when the Raiders left Oakland, right, they would confiscate signs and get rid of people who were saying stay in Oakland and stuff like that. Like, I think it's Bush League. I think it's trash, and the Mavericks should be better than that. They definitely should be better than that. So now the Kings have back-to-back games in New Orleans against the Pelicans before they get to this all-star break. The Kings 2-0 against the Pelicans so far. Of course, they just beat the Pelicans inside the Golden One Center the other night. The game was a little spooky at times. The Kings falling behind by 20, but it's okay. Hopefully, they can handle their business in New Orleans, the site of the Kings being eliminated from the play-in last year. I was at that game. Or I guess, no, yeah, it was last year. I was at that game. And believe it or not, you can attend the highly anticipated play-in rematch between the Kings and Pelicans in New Orleans, either of them, for just $2. Yeah, that's the state of the Pelicans right now. After paying $1 billion to be in the Superdome to watch the Super Bowl, you only need $2 to get into the Smoothie King Center to watch the Kings and the Pelicans on either of these two games coming up. But jokes aside, right? Like, these are two very gettable games for the Kings. These are two games that, you're in a fantastic spot to accomplish what I said I wanted to see the Kings accomplish, which is win 3 of these last 4 games. You beat the Pelicans at home. You just beat the Dallas Mavericks in overtime. Go get one of these games and you're feeling pretty good going into the All-Star break. Go get both of them on a 4-game win streak heading into the break. You're feeling really good at that point. It's very achievable. So go out and do it. Get the job done in New Orleans. They're not going to be easy. Don't stroll in there like you've already won the game, you own the place, and you just can't wait to have a break, right? The one thing I do not want to see, especially in that last game, is the Kings look like they're like they're ready to hop on the plane and go home and get that break, right? Sometimes you'll see like those laggy, kind of lazy performances because they're checked out or done with, or they've got their break and relaxation on the horizon. Don't want to see that. These games are too important with the race that the Kings are currently in, and it's only going to heat up over the final couple months of the season. Go out and get these games. Handle your business in New Orleans, and you can feel pretty good about yourself going into this well-deserved break. All right, I want to hear your thoughts on DeMar DeRozan, your thoughts on the two big man lineup of Valanciunas and Sabonis, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray. How you feeling about the Sacramento Kings right now? Hit me up on Twitter at MattGeorgeSac. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.